This show is brought to you by listeners and viewers like you. EvanX.com Tesla accessories, our TeslaOwnersOnline.com community, and our Patreon supporters at patreon.com/TeslaOwnersOnline. All right, folks, welcome to another episode of the Tesla Owners Online Show. I'm your host, Trevor Page. I'm joined by Ian and Eric. I know we've taken a little bit of a hiatus for the summer because, summer vacation is here and all, but I thought it would be really cool to start the next season, if you want to call it that, by having a very special guest, someone we've been wanting to have on the show for a long time, and we want to welcome Mr. Sandy Munro from Munro & Associates. Thank you for joining us, mister. You're a busy guy.
Yeah. Things have really progressed, but anyway, let me thank you. I'm very impressed that and honored that you guys would want me on your show. So I'm all in, as we say. Yeah.
Well, for those of you who don't know, Sandy is the founder of Munro Associates, a company that provides contract engineering for various industries, including aerospace, defense, automotive. But he's most recently known for being the premier company offering analysis and benchmarking reports of electric car teardowns. And Sandy has obtained and torn down such EVs as the Tesla Model 3, the Model Y, BMW i3, the Volkswagen ID4, and most recently the Ford Mach-E, and soon a Plaid Tesla Model S and the upcoming Cybertruck. So, Having said that, we're going to get into this. What I'd like for you to do, Sandy, is maybe give us a little bit of a background on your careers. So maybe you can tell us a little bit of insight of your early days, how you became a tool and die maker, and how you transitioned to engineering.
Okay, so I was born in Canada.
You're a Windsor boy.
Called Essex County. I am. Well, I was born in a place that doesn't exist anymore. I was born in Sandwich East, and it was basically farm country. And I picked apples, and I picked tomatoes, and I picked. Actually, I suckered tobacco and caught racks. But in essence, I figured something out when I was about 10 or 11, and that was, this shit's really hard work. Man, I can't take this. I'm gonna die out here in the field. So anyway, my dad ran a factory called Century Spray, and when I turned 16, he said, it's about time you got a trade. And so I was 18 for 3 years in a row. I was 18 when I was 16, I was 18 when I was 17, and I was 18 when I was 18. And I started my apprenticeship. And there was always this commotion about every year you had to log in and, wait, weren't you born in 1947? Wait a minute, weren't you born in 1948? Wait, what's your? So anyway, but at the end of the day, I got through my toolmaking career early. So at 19, I had my journeyman's ticket, and actually I was a lead, and I graduated from high school, and everybody said, "Oh, Sandy, you're doing so well. You should go into engineering." Big mistake. Anyway, I went to school for a little while, and I found out that I didn't like that either. And so I went back in, like I was already in those olden days, we used to draw lines, and I went back into the machine tool and automation business. So Century Spray, F. Joseph Lamb, LaSalle, a bunch of different machine tool companies. And I was, sometimes I was a regular employee. Most of the times I was a job shopper. Actually, I don't know if you've ever heard of Jobby Nooner, but Jobby Nooner is a big deal in Detroit. It's where everybody runs off to Gull Island, and all kinds of crazy things happen. Everybody's drinking heavily, and everybody's on boats and whatnot. A job shopper is a jobby, and so I was in that crowd. I thought it was a lot more fun than being a captive. So anyhow, so I spent a lot of time as a job shopper or jobby, and then I got married, and my wife said, about time you got a real job. So I started working in as a captive. And one thing led to another, and I got to Valiant Machine Tool. And at the time, Valiant was the biggest privately held machine tool company in North America. And I got to be the chief engineer. And so I worked on, or I had people I worked on automation, on robotics, on dyes and molds, on pretty much anything you can imagine. And so I got a lot of experience and whatnot. And we won a lot of awards when I was there. Anyway, one thing led to another, and we created this really good intake manifold line for Ford Motor Company, and the Ford Motor Company came along and said, "Hey, how much do you make?" And I told him, and he said, "That's not nearly enough." And how many people do you have? Just about 100. Oh, that's too many. Why don't you come here and you can just work for us, and we'll pay you more money, and you won't have all these people issues. And I said, "Where do I sign?" So I went to Ford, and I started at the Windsor engine plant as a manufacturing engineer. And then one thing led to another, and actually they hired me so that they could get rid of all of the people, and they were going to put in all robots. But I had worked in this industry for a long time. I knew that wasn't possible. You should have told me that, before you hired me, but this isn't going to work. So anyway, one thing led to another, and they said, "Well, what can we make work?" And I put a couple of things in. It worked really well. And the next thing you know, I got promoted to engine division staff. I spent some time there, and I created a couple of lines. One was the Vulcan V6. That's the one I'm the most proud of, probably, because it got implemented, and it was the engine that went into the Taurus.
Taurus, that's right.
The Taurus saved the world, or at least the
Ford.
The Ford Motor Company. And so I designed the engine assembly and test line, but I also worked on the design of the product. So it was really good experience for me. And then after that, I was moved into body chassis engineering. And then after that, I wound up in finance staff. So, and during that time, I met Dr. Deming. Dr. Deming was a great mentor for me. He told me what to do and when to do it. And anyway, one day he just said, "It's time to leave." And I took his advice, and I started Munro and Associates. And my first job when I started Munro was for Ford Motor Company, a redesign of the 351W, or the 5-liter. And
a boy from Windsor works on the Windsor. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
perfect.
they wouldn't let me work on the design when I was working for Ford in Windsor, and they wouldn't let me work on it because, that engine's going to disappear. We're still making it. It's still there. So I redesigned it as soon as I got out of Ford, and I gave them the information. There was a whole bunch of kludges that had been, they just been forgotten. Like things like, let's machine this hole for the distributor. We didn't have any distributors anymore. So anyway, a lot of stuff got eliminated. Ford was happy, I was happy, and that was kind of like the kickoff for my career. And then moved on to I actually, when I was still at Ford, I worked on the space shuttle disaster. They sent me off for that.
Really?
And then,
Wow.
yeah. At one time I was famous, but yeah, it was a
Dr. Feynman?
no question about it. It was a glory time. And then we worked for GM, and Ingersoll Rand was a huge customer of ours, still is a customer of ours, on and on. And here we are now, looking at electric cars after only 33 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Question for you, Sandy. Were you not? I heard somewhere that you were involved in the early switch over to robotics, or heavily involved with robotics. I mean, it's commonplace now, but back in the day, probably not as much, right? I remember the robots weren't multi-armed like they are today. They had basically just an arm that would come out and move, right?
Right.
What were those called again? I forget.
I was just thinking of the name, and it just went straight out of my ear.
It's in my mind right now, and I can't. Uni something, wasn't it?
Not Unimate. Well, Unimate was one.
Yeah.
I think it is Unimate.
That's the one I'm
So
thinking
anyway,
of.
Unimate. Yeah, Unimate was the first robot I ever seen, and I was totally mystified. And that was when I was in my first year as an apprentice. So we brought him in to basically pick up parts and put them on the assembly line and that got rid of a loader because these things are sharp as razors. And so this thing would reach over, grab the part, and it had a pattern. There was a matrix pattern. Pick up the part, put it onto the washing machines. Are kind of different than the one you got at home. They're about 10 feet wide and about 15 feet tall and maybe 30 feet long. And the parts go in, they're sharp, they got burrs, they've got chips and all kinds of stuff. They go through, they come out the other end and clean, dry, nothing, they're spectacular, ready to be put into a product. So the Unimates, they were brand spanking new. No one had ever seen them before. And certainly when we had, actually, there was a newscast. I think that what we used to be Channel 9 came in and did a big thing. Look at this, the wave of the future. And it was working. They finished filming it and then it conked out, forgot where it was going. Thank God the camera wasn't working. But it had its issues. It was, you got to remember that in those days we didn't have computers, and everything was on relays, and it was a real challenge to make things. I mean, it wasn't accurate either. Like this.
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of freedom of movement.
When you go to you go to one of these carnivals or something, and you got a box and pick the bunny out after you. So you throw a buck into it, right? And it goes like this all over the place. And then just before it gets to
it drops it.
It drops it because it's shaking so much. Well, that was the same thing as the Unimate.
Cool.
But we got them to work. They worked well after we tightened them up a bit. And I can't remember who that was for. It was either General Motors, Ford, or Chrysler. But anyway, they kept them going for quite some time. And it was the first example. It scared the daylights out of the union. They really didn't like that.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Guys, we want to move on maybe some of the other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Get into the battery tech.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so the battery tech is the big thing right now. Of course, Tesla had their battery day and stuff. So I think one of the first questions. Oh, by the way, I should mention, I want to say a shout out to everybody on Twitter and our YouTube channel who supplied us with tons and tons and tons of questions for Sandy. Unfortunately, we can't answer them all because we don't have all the time in the world. So we've had to consolidate a lot of this stuff. And that's what we're going to try to do here. We're going to kind of go through this as fast as we can, because I know a lot of us would just go on for like 5 or 6 hours, but you guys don't want to watch a 5 or 6 hour show.
I would.
I know, I would too.
Let's go.
I spend a lot of time watching car building videos on YouTube. I love watching the robots. Anyways, so Sandy, so here's a question for you. So given that you've torn down so many different EVs right now, what is your take? And I don't want to make this into a religious thing because it's not, but what is your take on Tesla using cylindrical cells as opposed to just about everybody else using pouch or prismatic cells in terms of packaging, wasted space?
Yeah.
Because like one of the observations I've seen, and I've watched your videos when you take down these batteries, seems to be a lot of complexity and a lot of wasted space in these pouch cells.
Yeah, well, it's not wasted space. It's just that's just the way you have to make them because these things expand and contract. So I've always been an advocate of cylindrical, and the reason for that is because one of the guys that Munro, Mark Ellis, he's put in dozens of, literally dozens and dozens of battery lines. And he's done prismatic, he's done cylindrical, he's done a pouch, he's done anything you can imagine in the way of batteries, he's been involved in it. And quite frankly, it's a lot faster and a lot cheaper to run with cylindrical. To me, I just look at the efficiency and I like what I see. So that's kind of like what I'm focusing my attentions on. I think that from a density standpoint, everybody says, well, look at all the spaces around that you miss. Well, yeah, but I don't have to have chunks of steel all over the place or chunks of aluminum to hold a battery while it's expanding or trying to expand and contract. I got just one little round thing. And now that you get the 4680s,
yeah.
Like I wasn't really a big fan on the original 17, whatever they were.
18650s?
18650s. They didn't do it for me, but the 2170s got a lot better. And then we got the, we will get the 4680s. 4680s to me are great. And we had tried to work on something that was 50 by 80 or 50 by 75, sorry. And it just didn't go anyplace. We couldn't get the right number of people involved. As soon as Tesla came out with the 4680s, okay, we're done with that. Not fooling around with that anymore.
I could imagine that Tesla's move to a structural pack obviously just makes your little propeller on top of your beanie head really spin, right?
Yeah, that's what we need is more spinning beanies. But no, I think that Tesla's gone in the right direction. I like that. There are other battery packs that could have potential down the road. I know that LG and Samsung make good batteries. There's no question about it. Lots of people are using them. SK is coming on board, and then there's a host of Chinese guys that are out there that in essence make all the products that you could possibly imagine. So I think that battery technology is going to evolve real quickly. And then we've got the other aspects. I mean, there's everybody's kind of talking about the solid state batteries.
Yeah, that was another question we had.
That's the very next one. I just wanted to ask you
go
what you
ahead,
thought
go
about
ahead, Ian.
QuantumScape. Yeah. QuantumScape to me looks like one of the most promising ones, and I know you've talked about them, so I'd like you to maybe elaborate
solid
a little
power.
bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that are out there that have got great technology. Kind of is hard to make though. It's hard to manufacture. So they've got a lot of manufacturing issues that they're going to have to get over. Plus, it's not solid state. It's a semi-solid state. The only solid state batteries I know of, you have to heat up to about 180 degrees C. And the reason for that is because, is it 80 degrees C or, I can't remember, but anyways, you have to heat them up. I think it's 80 degrees C, it's 180
Fahrenheit.
Degrees F. I can't remember. But anyway, you have to heat them up. And that's a Canadian thing as well. If you look down in Montreal at Blue, they've got something that's been bought by Mercedes in conjunction with a French company. That the two of them are together now. I can't remember the name, but they really and truly have a solid state battery. So that means that everything is rock solid. But with solid power and QuantumScape and two or three of the other ones that we've looked at, they do have to have a certain amount of electrolyte on the cathode. And the reason for that is because there's no way to move the electrons without some kind of a fluid if it's cold. And these things all have to run at 70 degrees, which is another issue. Cold solid state is a lot different than hot solid state. There's a number of hot solid state batteries that work, but nobody wants that. Everybody wants to have the most efficient one, and that's probably going to be something like solid power or QuantumScape, or like I say, there's a bunch of them.
I think the biggest issue, I think, for most people is scale. I mean, Tesla's the company that's pushing very high on scale. They're not necessarily innovating in terms of doing solid state, but what they're trying to do is get the cost down. So they're doing by scale and innovating in getting the cost down where it makes sense. I mean, all you have to do is watch Battery Day. It's pretty obvious what they're trying to do. I'm sure that if they could find the next technology, they would do it, but only if it's cost effective. And right now, they're putting all their money into existing lithium ion, making slight changes, but trying to get the cost down. And then everybody else is like, I mean, we got all these other companies want to make EVs, but they just don't have the scale yet. I mean, GM or Ford, I mean, the Mach-E, 50,000 run rate a year. That's peanuts. Anyways.
Right. And well, the Mach-E is apparently has sold or is sold out. So that's 75,000. So the Mach-E is doing remarkably well. The Polestar is doing well in Europe. Not as good here as it probably should. The ID4.
That's a hard sell.
They got it's a hard sell. Bolt. I mean, I don't want that car. Most people look at it and say, I don't think so. So they've got to pick a different market, and I don't think they picked well with a Hummer either. But I think that Rivian is going to come out,
That's a company
and
we're
they're going to
excited
do really, really well.
Yeah.
And we've got one of those on order. Obviously, the Cybertruck. I think there's going to be. Well, I've predicted that the crossover point between EVs and ICE vehicles will be 2028. And actually, I talked to my accountant last night, and she has a gigantic Lincoln. And Gloria said, "When do you think I should buy an electric car?" I said, "Now." And she said, "Why is that?" And I said, "Because in about 2025, 2026, that thing is going to be hard to sell."
Yep.
And so
Take your money and run.
Well, I mean, you pay now or you pay later.
Right.
So as far as I'm concerned, for her, I don't think she needs a Model X. A Model S, but she could probably go with a Model X. That would be a good car for her. She wants the luxurious and whatever. Model X would be a good idea. And then if some of these other guys can make things happen, I mean, you've got a dozen. I don't want to give out advertising and whatnot, but there's a whole bunch of these what I would classify as ultra luxury kind of. Even Bentley. Bentley is one of our customers, and when I visited them in the November of 2019, we were supposed to have a big project. And I said, "What's the project on?" He says, "Well, I'm really not supposed to tell you, but it's going to be an EV." Okay, good. Let's do it.
Cool.
And that's why they brought me in to talk. They've been we've been working with them since the early 90s. And they were, that's what they were working on. And then everything went quiet. And then Bentley came out and said by 2025, they won't be selling any ICE vehicles, none.
So you mentioned Cybertruck just a few seconds ago, and I think this is a good segue to get into that. I think personally, other than the Model 3, this is the most anticipated car that Tesla is going to be building. And the way I look at it, it's not a pickup truck. It's a melding of an SUV with pickup truck capabilities. And we've said this many times before on the show that for Tesla to enter a very crowded pickup truck market in North America, which is dominated by the big three, that they have to be distinctly different and therefore better. However, if you think about it, the reason that Tesla is distinctly different is because of the way they want to be better. It's the other way around, right? The design of the Cybertruck is governed by the way that they have to build this thing. So having said that, what is your take on the construction processes and methods? I mean, Tesla's made a lot of noise about this thing being an exoskeleton of 3mm thick stainless steel. We know there's going to be a front and a rear casting and a structural battery pack, but there are going to be other stampings in this car. It's not going to be just stainless steel. So what are your thoughts on this? How are they going to weld this thing without staining the exterior? Because when you weld metal, you get that kind of
little blue marks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first off, let me go back to one thing you said. It's a combination of an SUV and a pickup truck. I think that they've got themselves a totally new market, and I think that this is the true sportsman's truck. I can put my quads in there. I can go hunting in this. This is great. If I'm a skier or a surfboard kind of guy, I can do that. I can put my bikes in there.
You're going to give up your Jeep, right? You still driving your Jeep?
I am driving I only have one car, a Jeep, or Jeep Wrangler. Right. But everybody in the planet seems to know that I have a Cybertruck on order. Mm-hmm. So in fact, I just bought a new house. We're in the process of basically rigging the roof with solar panels, and I have 3 Tesla walls that I'm in power walls that I'm putting in, and that will give us 10 days if there's no sun. Otherwise, I'll be selling back to the grid. So I think that I'm pretty happy with that. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be driving the Cybertruck, in essence, off the sun, and I'm probably going to keep the Wrangler because there are certain things that I don't want to do with the Cybertruck, and one of them would be mounting winches and stuff. My wife will not go for that. she barely put up with it on the Jeep. So I'm going to keep my Jeep. I actually been offered the same price that I paid for it.
Yeah, the used market's nuts right now.
Yeah, it is. So I'm going to probably keep that until the wheels fall off, and I've been trying to tear them off for a long time. So I think that as far as manufacturing is concerned, the ability to manufacture using an exoskeleton is what I used for actually. Zach, can you give me that little pink plane? Watch it. Somebody tried to tear the wings off a while ago. See it right there? Yeah. Anyway, so we developed a plane, and the plane was you didn't need a pilot. This was in 2008, and we created an aircraft that had an exoskeleton, and it's not the first time that somebody has done that. Can I put this down here?
Yeah, I can see it.
Anyway, this is it. It was called the Paradigm. It's pink because the motto was Think Pink when we were designing it, because we wanted women to get into it. And if you know anybody who has any woman that has kids, the very first thing that they'll say is when they see a private plane or a general aviation plane is, that propeller is going to chop my children up like a Cuisinart. So
put it in the back.
propeller's in the back here. It's a ducted fan. Yeah. And the next thing is I need to be comfortable. So this aircraft had a normal door, but it also had a sliding door on this side. The objective was that, number one, on the hit parade, a woman in an evening dress and high heel shoes has to be able to elegantly enter the aircraft. I didn't care about, 15 G's of pull and all this. All these guys that design aircraft, they all wear white scarves. They all think that they're going to be, World War II test pilots or something like that. This wasn't designed like this. This is air conditioning. This one is shown with a Corvette V8 engine. But we also designed it for what do you call it? A diesel, inline four-cylinder diesel, and the wing box. This area right down here, the wing box is where the gas tank would go. But I could put batteries in, and at the time we designed this, lithium-ion batteries were just coming into their own, but they kept catching on fire. So we were kind of like reluctant to have that as our prime way of going, but now I'd have no problem popping a bunch of batteries in the bottom. And like I said, this plane was different because you got 1,000 feet of separation between you and your next door neighbor, the other guy flying. So 1,000 feet, 1,000 feet, and 1,000 feet. It's easy to make this autonomous. It's tough for a car when I'm looking at, I got it 3.5 feet. That's a little tough. But this, we've got pictures of this flying with Fabot, who was our partner in making this. I mean, take off here. It was flown in Japan. We flew it in Japan. We flew it in. From Washington, Reagan Airport to Danville and back again with a bunch of senators and congressmen. Tragedy was that was all in 2008, and that was the end of that.
The market, yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, all this is 100% exoskeleton. And if you talk to an airplane guy, he'll tell you it can't be done, and yet it was done.
Composites?
This was a copy. I could use a composite. My wife has a PhD, and she developed something called laser weld bond. And Sue, that's how she got her PhD. Sue and I, and the whole team kind of worked on how would we make this thing using laser weld bond, because we were looking at 60,000 aircraft a year. There's a lot of places like Indonesia where there's a whole bunch of different islands and whatnot. But that's that's then. This is now. We can put that over there. It's a nice decoration in here, but I don't think don't think I got time for that one. But I think that exoskeleton is a good idea. As far as blemishes for welding and whatnot, no problem. When I was a kid, and I told you I was a tool maker, we made gigantic filtration systems for mines and for steel mills and things like that. All of them were made with stainless steel. All of them had to be polished out. So if you were an apprentice, you were given a big grinding wheel, and you'd grind down the welds, and then you took the grinding wheel off, put the buffing wheel on, and buffed it out. Looks fine.
Okay.
And as far as damage is concerned, I watched giant chunks of junk hit. We had a little more than 3 millimeters, but I saw it hit the big pipes and whatnot that we made for these air cleaning systems. So what? You go over, wipe it off, done.
Cool.
It's very difficult to bang up stainless steel, especially if it's a 3000 series.
So we had another question because it seems to pop up once in a while, because there's a lot of armchair engineers out on Twitter and the internet, of course, and they love to bring up this thing about crashworthiness and all the other stuff with this with the Cybertruck, given that it's going to be thick stainless steel and it's going to be these thick panels and angles, and you're going to kill pedestrians. I mean,
really?
we know that. No, I'm telling you right now, it's all over the internet. Anytime you mention Cybertruck, everybody comes in and says you're going to kill everybody with that thing because it's pointed and it's not going to have crumple zones because it's 3 millimeter stainless. And we know that at Tesla, the number one thing on a whiteboard when it comes to design is safety. FineLab has a line of protective coatings that were engineered to protect your Tesla's paint, leather, carpet, plastic, and wheels, effectively blocking all those UV rays and environmental factors before they ever get to ruin your brand new baby. FineLab offers a complete line of car care products and ceramic coatings for both the do-it-yourselfer and professional detailers. Did we mention we also have the world's first self-healing coating? Check us out at finelab.com, that's spelled FEYNLAB, to see the science behind the self-healing. Check out our product catalog and click Contact Us for a free quote from a certified installer in your area. FineLab and Tesla, we were meant for each other.
How do you make it crumple? It is a big question mark. I'd love to know if you have some insight into that.
It's got crush points. I mean, if you look at the car, you can see at the front end of the vehicle, there's lines. Those lines are the end of what we would classify as a bumper, right? So as you push that back, it'll fold inside the vehicle. It'll fold right inside. And as it's folding in, shit, I wish I'd have brought it. If I would have known, I would have brought a crush can. Actually, Kim, out in the back is a crush can. So that crush can will be attached to the bumper, and it'll just squash right in. And the crush can is on the it's on a bench just as soon as you get into the real shop. Okay, on the other side of where the
one thing I remember about Teslas with their crash rails that go into the body, that they are pre-dimpled.
Yeah.
So that
that's why I'm getting her to bring you a crush can so you can have a look at it.
Yeah, you're talking about it looks like an accordion. I've seen that.
Yeah,
sure.
at the factory they love to show you that piece they do.
So you could do the same thing, I guess, out of stainless.
No, you wouldn't. There's stainless is there for the show part and for the I don't want to wash. In fact, I don't think I've washed my Jeep more than 5 times ever. I mean, if it gets a wash, it must be it's got to be something serious. Like I got stuck in the mud and it's got to be really serious. So I think that most of the guys most of the people that buy this kind of a product, they're going to let it sit in the rain and it's getting clean, good. But we're on the inside the vehicle, that's where you're going to be looking at a variety of different materials. So they're going to be using aluminum, there's going to be using plastics, they're going to be using, and there you are. See, and so Kim is also a budding engineer. So she went out and found the crush can. So this is a crush can.
Yeah.
This is a crush can.
Yeah,
this is made for a smaller vehicle. But at the end of the day, when you hit something, it comes up like an accordion or a squeeze box. Okay, so the one for the Tesla vehicle is going to be quite a bit longer. It'll probably be something like about that long. Okay, so 1/2 meter for sure. And that is what's going to crumple in. It'll crumple down to about, I don't know, maybe 6 inches or something like that. It'll crumple in that far, and that's it. And it will pass. It has to pass everything that that NHTSA says it has to pass. You can't get away from it. You can't sell products unless they're safe.
Yeah.
Every time I see one of these things, I go, can I click the channel? I mean, this is just wrong. People don't understand. There's a lot of rules. You just don't crank something out, stick it on the road. It just doesn't work that way. And then the next question I know you're going to say is, what about maintenance? Oh my God, maintenance. Oh, baloney. It's all.
Well, repairability.
When you design a product, you have to design it so that you can take it apart if you have to. And that's that. So Tesla's no harder to get at than any other vehicle. And although Elon hasn't sent me any detailed drawings yet, I don't know. I don't know why. But anyhow, although I haven't seen any detailed drawings, I'm positive that if I looked at them, I would find out how I could take anything I needed to apart and put it back together.
So I think the next question before we move on, just the last one about the Cybertruck. I had I tweeted to Elon a number of days ago, see if he give us some kind of update on the Cybertruck, and he revealed that they're engineering it to have 4-wheel steering, which was unknown to us. Now, this is not the first time that's been done on vehicles before. I just thought, any particular thoughts on that?
Well, and that's a good idea because, again, if you are using the truck for off-roading, again, that is why I have a Jeep. I like to go off-roading. If you're off-road and all of a sudden you bump into a situation where you have limited access, you either have the Rivian, which can do a tank turn, or you could have 4-wheel steering where I can park the wheels in and I can go around pretty much anything if I could do that. And believe me, I've been in situations like that, and that's why I have a winch so I can get myself out of that. The turning radius on most SUVs, most utility kind of vehicles like a Jeep, is large. So, and my guess is that they're going to use virtual ball on that thing, which is going to make it even worse. So having it so that the wheels can tilt in the front and back makes it so that the turning radius will shorten up, and that'll make people who do things off-road a lot happier. I'm happier already. I had heard about that, but if you're getting it straight from Elon Musk, then that's
he did confirm it. Yeah,
that's for sure. Yeah. Good, excellent,
cool.
That's good news.
Yeah. I think it's time for moving on here a little bit. We were going to ask you about the Roadster. I think it's a little too early on that. I think our main question is, do you think it's going to have a fully carbon fiber body?
It was up to me, it would be.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think either carbon fiber or you could use glass. It's a little heavier and a lot cheaper. But
well, when I say carbon fiber, I'm not saying necessarily full carbon fiber, like maybe like CFRP or something.
You could use, you can use lots of different.
I know you're a fan.
And
of
you
this
won't just use one or two things. You're going to use a multitude of things to try and. I would try and get it as light as possible, right?
Yeah.
Make it light make it fast and then make it lighter or something. I can't remember. Graham, can you go in that door there and pull out there's a great big piece of carbon fiber. Yeah, so anyway, there's a lot of different tricks. Everybody sees carbon fiber as that hand layup mumbo jumbo, and that's fine. We've worked on lots of
I know you're a big fan of the BMW i3 and its CFRP implementation.
And
right,
you've made a good point before that
do
it's
that.
not nearly as expensive to produce as people have in their heads.
There you go.
This is a large piece. I don't know what's going on. Oh, people are grabbing it. I see. Oh, look, I have a halo.
A carbon
anyway,
halo, perfect.
This is huge, but it's really, really light.
Yeah.
And what it is this is a honeycomb.
Yeah.
And this is manufactured basically by heating it up and then compressing it, right? It's a compression molding. And so this is about, I don't know, 5/16, 3/8 of an inch thick. And it works just great. So here's the deal. This, I'll let these guys.
Thank you.
You got it? See that? And little Kim can carry that.
Yeah,
and if
very
that
light.
was made out of steel, I couldn't pick it up.
Nope.
Maybe the two of us, maybe me and Zach could pick it up, but you just wouldn't. That just wouldn't happen. So that's something that's an internal part. That's part you won't see, but we can do the same thing with spectacular finish using that same process. So depending on how complicated the design is or the styling is, that would work on almost anything except for like some kind of a bird speak, a razor sharp bird speak.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious right now that Tesla is not afraid to try new things when it suits them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not like everybody else. Like, oh, we just keep building it like this. I mean, how many door handle designs have we seen with Tesla now? 4? They're not afraid
At
to.
least. Yeah,
And the
at
Roadster
least
won't
4.
even have door handles. It has a gesture.
And that's the one thing that the first thing I spotted on the Mach-E was no door handles.
Yeah.
And the next thing that's got to go is wing mirrors.
Yeah,
I do not
absolutely.
understand why those things are still there. They are nothing but a noisemaker.
Yep.
And they cut down on the
Range.
on your coefficient of they increase the coefficient of drag. And if we're going to try and make EVs go as far as possible, you know what? I can get this little dinky camera. It's no bigger than that.
Yep.
And I can put it in, and I can see right across. I can put it in my windshield, or I could put a long skinny monitor across the top. I could see all the way around the car. Way better than looking in this little thing over here that always is in the wrong place.
Yeah.
You know, you get in the car, if you're smart enough to, and I don't think of that. I look in the rearview mirror and I can see the rear tire. That's not what I want to see. And now you're fiddling around trying to, but with the cameras, it wouldn't matter. It's not like you've got to adjust anything. It's always going to show you what's going on.
Yep.
That's one thing that the safety agencies have got to start demanding.
I will say right now, I mean, I just saw a report that NHTSA had put out a published document asking for final input on that ruling. So it looks like it's finally, I mean, I understand behind the scenes, Tesla's working very hard to make that happen because they don't want to put cameras on the Cybertruck. That's what I heard. So we'll see what transpires. Mirrors. I mean, the rear view mirrors is a camera because of the tonneau cover, but they want to get rid of wing mirrors. Anyways, we're limited on time here. We really have to move on. Let's talk about the Model S Plaid. We know you have one on order. You're doing a fundraiser right now to try and get your costs down. Anything you can say about that very quickly? What are your plans for the car?
Send money.
Yeah, send money, of course.
Actually, we've seen a tremendous number of people who just want to buy a bumper sticker. I mean, at least you get something for a donation. So I can't remember the price, but it's like
I think you said it was like $13
around
or
15.
something. Yeah, 13.
Yeah, something like it.
I ordered mine this morning. It's $13 if you want just the sticker, and if you want one signed by Mr. Munro, it's $50. I went for the full deluxe signed edition.
Oh,
so.
there you go.
Oh wow, excellent. Well,
Everybody do that.
I'll tell you.
Support the cause.
I've been signing those by crazy, and I didn't realize. But anyway, I know that we could still use more cash, but that is an expensive product.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
And we like to be able to show people what's going on, and when you've got something that wasn't in the budget initial.
Sorry to interrupt, Sandy. Was it the Plaid model you ordered so you can look at the carbon wrapped motor? Is that the
exactly.
deal?
There's
Well,
so
that'll be interesting.
The one we ordered is not quite available or whatever, so it's getting pushed back a little bit. But that's okay. I want what I want, and I'll get it. So I'm pretty excited about that. And we're going to do a tour actually, and so we're going to leave Detroit, and we're going to head south and east. And so we're going to try and basically stay on the right-hand side of the Mississippi, and hit some of the different Tesla owners clubs and whatnot.
Yep.
And we'll go probably down as far as Miami, and then we'll come back up the East Coast, and maybe get north of Boston or something like that, and then cut across, and hopefully the border will be open, and we'll get to Montreal, Toronto, through Windsor, and
we'll keep an eye on that because we'll hit you up on that because you're right in our neck of the woods. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, like I said, we're limited on time here. We have a whole bunch of other stuff we want to hit here, so we're going to kind of do a lightning round here. You've been critical of Tesla. I mean, when you first got the Model 3, you tore it apart. You were rightfully critical, I think, in a lot of ways of the Tesla's dinosaur technologies, which related to the body. But you are also very high praising of their power electronics in general, battery stuff. What do you expect from Tesla in terms of innovations on both fronts going forward? I mean, we've already seen a little bit of the improvements on the Model Y, with the castings. What else would you like to see? 48-volt system?
Okay. A 48-volt system may be great, but you can't buy the components to make it work.
But Tesla can make them?
They could, but that would put that, and that's not the kind of thing you want to get into business on. Tesla's vertically integrated, and they do a real good job, and I really like the vertical integration that they put out. However, going to 48 volts with all the sensors and everything else that you're going to need, and nothing in the marketplace, then that gets to be expensive. And what's your savings? A few grams here and there on wiring. So I'm not a real big, I don't think that that's a good idea or a good way to spend money. What I do think is that they're going to look at systems that will eliminate wires entirely.
Yeah, their digital wiring harness.
Exactly. So you start looking at, I've got a power line, okay, I needed that anyway. And then after that, it'll be Bluetooth or something inside the cab that'll help reduce weight and actually make things go faster.
Cool.
So.
Next question here. I think you're in alignment with many, many Tesla owners out there in saying that the company produces new cars which are about 95% complete, but later implement design changes and improvements as they go.
Right.
Do you have any recommendations or what you would share to Tesla to maybe avoid some of these issues?
I will tell you that every car company I've ever worked with has issues. Correcting them in a hurry is what I'm really big at. I really like the idea of making corrections as fast as possible. The other car companies don't do that. I think I've used the term Tesla moves at the speed of thought. Hey, I think it's a better idea. Let's check it. Hey, it is. Let's go. With everybody else, it's let's draw it up. Well, let's think about it. Let's have a committee. Let's think about it some more. Let's have a vote. Nobody wants to go out there and sign on a little thing. And then it goes to the change board. And then the change board says, change? Are you kidding me? Because all those guys they're there to basically say, no, that's how they got the job. Nope, don't do that. Back in 36, holy mackerel. That's kind of like what happens. So I guess when it comes to that, there's always going to be changes needed or necessary, but it's the bigger thing is how quickly can you make that change, and how quickly can you satisfy all the guys that you just sold a car to. And in most cases, Tesla makes changes that if you, for instance, say the heat pump goes out, and you had an early version, so somebody goes in there, pulls out your heat pump, but guess what? The new heat pump that's going to go in is better than the one you had before. Yeah. How can you go wrong with that? The mounting holes are in the same place, but now it's either lighter or more efficient or who knows what. And then OTA, I mean, over the air updates, transfer. That kind of stuff is that's what sets Tesla apart. They make their corrections really, really quickly. With other people, they wait for a mandatory recall or something like that. And then they get nasty stuff in the press. Yeah.
All right, Eric, what's the next one for us?
So, Sandy, thanks for joining us again. Both you and Trevor have been on the record about the paint quality of the Model Y. And you were on the record as saying, I don't like the paint job at all. It's a bad paint department. I would be sacking the guy in charge. And during the shutdown, I would have had the whole new paint shop put in. Now, you recently interviewed with Elon, and he talked about this with you. But from your perspective, could you elaborate a bit more on why it was so bad before, and then why they were able to quickly turn that around in just a matter of months?
Well, yes, they turned it around, but they added a lot of extra things. So the first thing is that the Tesla folks never really tried to make cars at the rate that they're making them right now. So as you push a car out the door, you have to be cognizant of the fact that the paint has to actually dry. And you have to be cognizant of the fact that it has to be spotlessly cleaned.
Yes.
So I could be wrong, but I think what they added was a feather room. And a feather room basically is an area where the car is, it's already clean. And then the feathers go over the top of it and make sure that there's nothing else left. And that would get rid of whatever paint might be, whatever might be stuck on the body that would be covered in paint and give you a nasty finish. The other thing is, I think that they were too much in a hurry to get the paint line up and running, and I don't think they cleaned it well enough. So again, I could be wrong, but I think that what they did was during a shutdown, they went in there and either water blasted or sand blasted that thing, then put a coat of paint over the top of everything. The paints we've got now basically will cover anything and nothing will fall off. It's more like glue than it is everything else. And so you do that, and now I'm not going to get any dirt put onto the car before it gets into the paint shop. Once it's in the paint shop, okay, if I'm painting a car every 2 minutes, I can do a pretty good job of making sure that everything's covered. If I take the dial and go, I want to wear every 60 seconds, well, things go wrong. And if you don't have you have to have enough length in the paint booth in order to make the paint work, period. And then as soon as it gets out, okay, now I got to dry it. It's one thing to dry it at 2 minutes or 3 minutes. It's quite another to try and do it at under 60 seconds. That gets to be kind of hairy. And you can't just take it and say, oh, well, we don't have any more oven left. Are you kidding me? That doesn't work. So now what you've got to do is keep your fingers crossed. And that's what they were doing. So the paint line that was on the old Fremont plant, that plant, I didn't like it. And as a matter of fact, I don't want to get into it, but I didn't like that plant when GM owned it. So at the end of the day, they couldn't produce good paint jobs in that plant when GM owned it. And the reason was the paint shop was bought for a nickel or bought for on the cheap. Now I think what they're doing is they've done something inside to try and alleviate some of these problems. And quite frankly, they may have added more robots for painting. They may have extended the ovens and whatnot. I don't know, but I can tell you right now that I've seen some paint jobs that are just spectacular on the Model Ys and the Model 3s. Just
I would have to
as
agree
good
that
as
I have seen some improvements. We do know that they put a new paint shop in the Fremont factory in about 2014, although all of us have very high hopes for the Austin factory and, of course, the German factory, which have all brand new Dur paint jobs. So we have high hopes on that. All right. What else we got here, Eric? What else can we talk about?
Well, one of our listeners has asked, have you ever put the cars that you tear down back together again?
No. No, they never go back together. Next question.
Next question.
No, they go to the scrapyard. We can't take a chance.
Yeah, which company has been most receptive to your feedback?
Well,
That might be a pointed question.
that's a tough question. Well, Elon Musk, he's been very kind. Ford Motor Company, they were delighted. They were scared to death when I started tearing apart the Mach-E. But
Other than the hoses,
they've
right?
come back and they've been very gracious. Most of them don't say a word. I mean, the folks from VW on the electric motor, they were definitely interested. But that's the Chinese as well. So we had a lot of Chinese customers, and we helped them with their cars and whatnot, and their cars are pretty good. When they start rolling into North America, there's going to be a reduction in all of the local players. It's going to be just like what happened when the Japanese started bringing their cars in, and some of them are going to go. They're going to get big real fast, because there's guys that could easily compete with Toyota and anybody. Doesn't matter who it is, BMW. because they build all those cars. China's the biggest car manufacturing
Yeah.
company country on the planet. So,
Okay.
so there you are.
How are we doing here, Eric?
Well, I know it's just about the end of the hour, so I'm not sure if you want to start wrapping
Yeah,
things
toss
up.
one out. Let's go.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
So
appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks so much. So you mentioned before during the show that Tesla has done a really good job of sort of expanding its lead over other OEMs, both here and abroad. Do you think that they're going to maintain that lead as you
Yes.
predict over the next 7 years, or do you think that other companies could sort of tighten the margins a little bit?
The margin might be tightened, but Tesla's not a company that sits in one place. If it was, then maybe somebody could catch up. But by the time they catch up to where Tesla is, Tesla's going to be here. So it's a moving target. It's a lot easier to hit a target if it's sitting there stationary and you got a sandbag with your, you put your gun on a sandbag. It's a lot tougher if you're in the woods and the deer is running by you and you're shooting from the hip or something. Okay, it's totally different. And that's kind of like what the auto industry is. There's never any sandbags and you don't get a chance to look at the target. You have to anticipate the target, and that's where it gets really, really difficult. And nobody can tell me that anybody was anticipating the EV market in 2019. Because when I gave my speeches, I went around the world literally giving speeches saying that 2030 is the end of ICE. And I got booed and all kinds of nasty things happened. I didn't care. They gave me the money. I went, hey, I don't care. So anyway, I basically I had no problem with making the predictions, and now I used to say 2030, now I say 2028, and now, well, yeah, there's a lot of people that are sitting up taking notice, but then not so much.
What are your thoughts on the big three auto manufacturers in the U.S. really stepping up their game to move? I mean, they've all made announcements. We've seen a few products, but they like to make promises. Oh, by this date, we're going to have this, and we're going to have that. Do you think they're really going to survive? This
I
transition?
I think they'll survive. It's just they're going to be smaller. That's all. It's just like when the Japanese first started bringing over cars, Toyota, Honda, whatever. When they first started driving, well, I think General Motors had 60% of the market share.
Wow, that's crazy.
Now what do they got? I mean, the same thing is going to happen as the market expands, as new entries come into the market. Somebody's going to lose, and I don't think it's going to be Tesla.
What about the smaller players like FCA? They don't seem to be doing anything.
FCA,
Chrysler.
There is no, Chrysler. When you said the big three, we really only have two car companies in the United States. Stellantis owns FCA, and so it's going to have a French spin. My hope is that they won't do what Renault did when they bought American Motors. You guys are all way too young, but
no.
Look up the
guys in their 50s
Renault.
here. We remember AMC.
Yeah. Well, the Renault Dauphin was not a fan of everybody. That's not good.
We used to have Renault in Canada, not anymore.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff. I hope they don't do that. I hope that they understand that the car market here is different than the one in Europe, but we'll see what happens. I don't know. They've gone very quiet. FCA or what used to be FCA has gone very quiet.
Okay. How are we doing, Eric?
Any parting thoughts on the Tesla semi-truck and if what you think it's going to do, and perhaps if you want to get your hands on one just to try it out?
Oh, try it out. I'd like to drive it.
Yeah,
I had a couple of offers to drive some of the other semis out there, but then they kind of retracted because the press. I just found out that
You mean Nikola?
that the press what
Nikola?
and Nikola was one of them. I wanted to go and see what Nikola had because you know what, I'm not a fan of hydrogen cars, but I'm a big fan of hydrogen trucks, and the reason for that is because there's a thing called solid state hydrogen. That is what I want. Those discs, I can buy those at the grocery store and fill up just by swapping the discs out. And then you take the disc, bring it back, and be like returning pop bottles. I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of like what I think is the right mode for big trucks, aircraft, and trains or ships. That's the way to go. So that type of technology I think is great for there. I'd like to drive these things, but unfortunately, the press just doesn't have enough blood to toss into the magazines and TVs and whatnot. So they continuously trying to find some way of, selling papers. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Anyways, I think that we are going to get into some sort of an EV truck. I think that solid state hydrogen is a great idea. I don't like bottled hydrogen so much, but I think that what's the name of the company that's got the solid state hydrogen? The guys with the discs and whatnot.
Plasma Kinetics.
Yeah, there you go. Plasma Kinetics. Those guys, they were stymied for 10 years by the U.S. government. They weren't allowed to show anybody or tell anybody about what was going on. That's criminal. That's really, really too bad.
Yeah.
But they've got the way to basically put hydrogen on the map for big trucks. And basically what you got is a disc that's about this big in diameter. Light beam comes down on it. It's multifaceted, but let's just call it a laser for talking. Comes down on top of it, releases the gas. As it moves on, that record's over, then it goes to the next one. Great idea. Phenomenal idea. When I saw it, I just, how come nobody else thought of this? And so they're in the process of talking to quite a number of big truck manufacturers, and I think that that's going to come to fruition. So there's one that I think that one thing that's gonna set the world on edge. The biggest problem I got with batteries, or nothing but batteries, is talk to a trucker. A trucker gets paid for load. They don't give him extra money because he happens to have a really heavy truck. And until we can get rid of the really heavy truck aspect, it's going to be tough for me to see how truckers are going to want to have an EV truck that isn't, first off, light, or at least as light as what a diesel might be, filled with fuel, and quick change. So I have to be able to either charge it up, or I have to swap bottles, or in the case of Plasma Kinetics, take out a bunch of round discs and put in a bunch of new round discs.
It'll be interesting. Be interesting to see. I happen to know that Tesla is currently building the very first mega charging station for their semi-truck at Frito-Lay in California. Yeah. So we're keeping tabs on that. All right, how are we doing there, Eric? Let's move on.
All right, good. So what has been your favorite vehicle to tear down thus far, and what has been most amazing to you in your teardowns?
That's a good one.
Well, the Tesla Model Y was my favorite teardown because we found so much stuff that I really liked. I was on the fence with the Model 3. I made a lot of statements and whatnot, but the Model 3 had a lot of really neat technology, 10 years ahead of everybody else. But with the Model Y, I got a chance to see something that I could use to crow about or stick into other people's nose. Because we'd been pushing the casting idea for a long time, and we were continuously told that, Sandy, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, I get a lot of that kind of stuff. And we even had one sitting here before, a long time ago, and it's still sitting there. And people are still walking by and say, oh, you can't, that can't happen. And so when the Model Y came out and I saw the two castings, I was like dancing all over the place. And then they said, well, you got an old one, now it's one casting. And I couldn't hardly believe it.
Soon to be two again when they go to the Austin one, when they do the front casting.
Yeah.
Right, so they're going to have a front casting, a rear casting, and the center casting will be for the battery pack.
Yeah.
And again, Well, what happens? Nah,
Who cares?
you got to be kidding me. They just can pull these ideas. I was going to say out of my ass, but I can't think of anything else. So that's not the way you do things. I mean, airplanes, medical devices, cars, you have to do a lot of testing and validation. And there's a zillion people that are looking at whatever you've done to make sure that you didn't screw anybody over.
Mm-hmm.
And or isn't going to be, it's going to be so unsafe that people are going to crash and die.
Yeah.
So, these kids, people at these doomsday Luddites. I mean,
there are a lot of
you
them.
can go and look that one up. But anyway,
that's a perfect description.
That's
of
a
what we're
good
talking
well,
about.
it
one,
is.
Sandy.
I mean, this is just like the Industrial Revolution when people, burning down buildings that have got machines in it.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the same sort of a scenario. I guess nobody likes change, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's coming on, and these people will. I mean, they may get their name in the paper today or tomorrow, but they'll fade into oblivion unless somebody gives a name like a Luddite off the guy's name was Ludd, I think. Yeah. So, and that's not a good thing to have.
No.
So,
Now you had a friend who thought about getting a Model 3, and you said, why not get the Model Y? Is that right?
yeah, I did. I recommend the Model Y.
I do too.
I've recommended it several times. And it's been the only electric car. Actually, that's not 100% true because I was asked, should I buy a Mach-E or a something else? And I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you'd probably be better off with a Mach-E. And they're really happy. They didn't want to have a Tesla.
And that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's a free
I drove the
country
Mach-E. It's a
still,
great
but
car.
It is. It's lots of fun. Not as fast. And it doesn't have, I like I don't know, maybe I'm just getting used to it, but I like to drive. We have a Model 3 here that we drive around.
Yeah.
And my wife now, hard to get her out of it. She doesn't like the Jeep. So anyhow, I'm sorry to say that
Well, we're running out of time.
I'm getting waved at.
Yeah.
So
No, I
I'm
understand.
sorry.
That's totally okay, Sandy.
There's
We
another
really
one coming down
appreciate
the
you
pipe.
joining us on the show. Listen, we would love to have you again in the future, maybe when you get your Plaid Model S.
problem.
Definitely when you get the Cybertruck. We want to have a chat with you on that
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I have 2 on order myself. I'm only going to
We
get
have
one, but
5.
you have 5.
We have 5 on order at Munro Associates. So, yeah. So one's mine. That one's not going to even come close to the factory in case somebody has got a wrench in their hands. So that'll be.
I'll be
kept
getting
away.
a roadster too, but I'm not letting anybody take it apart. Sorry.
Well, the roadster isn't as interesting to me as a Cybertruck.
No,
That's the one
I
I'm
agree with you
really,
100%.
really
That between both cars, the Cybertruck's the one that I'm super excited
Yeah.
about. Anyways, well, that brings us to the end of the show, and you guys know where to follow us. And we have to let Sandy go, but we really appreciate you having him on the show. And like I said, we will have him on again as soon as he has some time and he has some extra products to show us and stuff. So, anyways, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you next time. Again, thank you, Sandy, and we will talk to you guys.
Thank you.
One last thing.
Thank you, guys.
One more?
Thank you.
Hold on.
Don't forget to go to munrolive.com
Yes.
and order your bumper stickers
Yes.
so that this man can get a plaid and we can see it all get taken apart.
I will
Do
put
that.
a link
Well,
in the
thank
video
you.
description.
Thank you very much. I'm going to hire you for my new what do you call
Marketing
it?
department? Yeah.
Marketing, yeah. The Ian marketing department, yeah.
Excellent. Really appreciate it.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Sandy.
Bye for
It was
now.
awesome.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yep. Bye-bye.